Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a new reading vlog. A little bit of background before we really get into it. I was watching some of my old videos from 2023, and 2023 is the year where I started filming, and I used to do a lot of reading vlogs, reading challenges vlogs back then, and I miss doing those, but I think I stopped doing them when I stopped reading mainly romance books or more popular books because, and I'm not saying this is accurate at all, but because reading vlogs like challenges or these kinds of things are kind of fun, I didn't associate them with the books I started reading when I really started to get into literary fiction and classics, because to me those are more serious, and so they were incompatible. But that's not even true, because I think there's so much value in any genre, and reading is a hobby. Reading is supposed to be fun, so I just thought we'd bring back reading challenges, reading vlogs like this. We're gonna go in very easily because we are going in with what I realistically read in a week. To be honest, however, when I film and I do a reading vlog, I tend to read a tiny bit faster than I genuinely normally would, because I have to think of clips that I need to film, and those clips need to be of me reading, and so naturally I'll read maybe 10 to 20 more pages than I would. But my reading pace has slowed down a lot, partly because I'm more busy in my life, because back when I was reading so much, I think I read 125 books in 2023, and the reason that I've read so many was that I had very little social life, which now is not the case anymore, and I much prefer it the way it is now. But it's also, I think, because of the books I've been reading, because the content has been a lot, not more serious, like I was saying before, but at least emotionally more taxing, and even for my brain, because the language can be harder to grasp. And so because of all of those reasons, I read a little bit less than I used to back then, and I have no issues with that. So let's talk about the first book that we're going to be reading. This is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. If you saw my last video, then you know that I bought this a bit on a whim. Right now I'm at chapter 6. I was at chapter 5 this morning, so I just read a chapter, but I think I'll come back and give you a summary of this book tomorrow because I'm so early on. I want to grasp a bit more of the story before I give a summary. Yeah, let's get reading, and I'll see you tomorrow for updates. Hi guys, today's Tuesday. I have class today from 10 to 2. I haven't read this morning, but last night I went up to chapter 12, page 103, which means yesterday I read 74 pages. This is about accurate to my daily average, depending on the book. I have this really strange thing where when I read a longer book, I tend to read more in a day than when I read a shorter book for some reason. But let me give you a summary of Beartown. The book starts off with this tragic event that is going to happen in Beartown, and the first chapter tells us what the event is, which I still don't want to say because I think it's an interesting surprise. But the first chapter just essentially paints that big event and says this is how we got there. And so basically we are in this small town called Beartown in the wilderness. It's really secluded, and the thing that is keeping the town going is hockey. So hockey plays a really, really important role in the characters' lives. We follow a multitude of characters, and the point of views don't change every chapter, but they change every few paragraphs or so, which is really interesting, and I wonder how many characters we're going to follow, because right now I've been introduced to a huge cast of characters. But I think what Fredrik Backman does really well is that it's not really confusing. The characters don't read the same. It's more just confusing because there are a lot. But yes, hockey is this really big thing, and this junior team right now is set to go on a semi-final, and that would change the entire town's life, the entire town. It's really interesting. I am quite enjoying it so far, though I will say it's really slow. It's just been contemplative and really just exploring the characters, what the characters think, what the characters feel, their relationships to one another. But as is true with Fredrik Backman, there's so many lines that I end up underlining because he, I think, has a very big understanding of how humans act and why they act the way they do. And the writing is never complicated. It's always is really simple and straightforward, but I do like what it says about the human condition, if you will. So really enjoying that, hoping to read a lot more today. Also still within the realm of books, but not related to Beartown itself. I went on Fable yesterday and I added my entire physical TBR to a Fable list, and I was thinking back on my year of reading last year. I think I stopped reading books about a year and a half ago, especially on Goodreads, and especially when I started reading different genres, but I was able to go back on my last year of reading and rate pretty much every book I read last year, at least most of them. And so I was thinking that I might continue to do this on Fable. I don't know that I will import it on Goodreads because it's stressful to rate books, and I feel like Fable is my statistics app, and so I don't feel a big pressure to rate books because my opinions can change and then I don't think it matters. But on Goodreads, I feel like it's more the app where people follow each other, and sometimes your opinion on a book is only summarized to a rating, and I think that's not really helpful. And also because Fable has a lot more specific ratings than Goodreads does, I don't think I'll be rating the books I read in the month right away. I think I would want to wait for my wrap up to be up before I went back and rated the books, because I think I want my opinion to be clear before you see the rating. Because I don't want my opinion about a book to be summarized to its rating, especially because when I read I have so many thoughts and opinions on what I'm reading. I'll see you tomorrow for our daily update. Good morning. I'm currently at page 202. I'm gonna update a bit better in a second, but I'm gonna finish my chapter because I'm reaching a turning point, which is why I wanted to talk in the first place. So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen, and from the hints that I'm getting, how it's gonna happen or how it's gonna be treated. I was going to read this chapter last night, but I was sensing that it was gonna shift gear a little bit, and so I wanted to record as I was reading this. However, I didn't expect this to be the turning point. I expected a different turning point, so I'm curious. Then I'll update you on how much I read yesterday, etc. Alright, so I finished chapter 21. Let's go back to yesterday. I read till page 191, meaning I read 88 pages yesterday. I read for a good 2 hours yesterday, I think, because I'm not the fastest reader. As for chapter 21, because I was saying that it was taking a turn, it did take a turn, at least in the tone of the story. It feels a lot more serious now, and I'm sure that the rest of the book is going to be more serious as well. I didn't expect this thing to happen in this book. I think I was thrown off by the first chapter, but the way that Frederick Backman treated this subject or this moment in chapter 21 was really accurate and very exact, I want to say. Not for everyone, obviously, but I think it was just treated very well, which is a nice thing, because I think I don't want to say what it is, so it's more for the people who read it, but I think a subject matter like this can be treated very poorly, and I'm appreciating that, at least right now. It was done pretty well, and I'm curious to see how it moves the rest of the story along and how it's going to be treated in the rest of the story as well. Today I don't have class, so I think I'm going to dedicate a bit of time to reading. Yeah, I think that's the consensus. I recently don't tend to read more than 2, maybe 3 hours if I have a really good reading day, but today I don't have class and I do have work, but not that much to do, so I'm hoping I will have time to read a bit more than 100 pages. Right now it's 9:48, so it's still early enough that I think I should have time. It's a really nice day out, so I think I'm gonna go to the park and read. It's also pretty warm. It's 17 degrees, so I'm gonna get dressed. I want to go ideally pretty early because yesterday was also a nice day and everyone was out, and I wanted to read outside. There were no benches and I didn't feel like sitting on the grass, so ended up just going on a quick walk but couldn't read outside. So today I'm making it my mission to be able to. Those are my thoughts so far, and how much I read. I'll come back tomorrow, but will of course let you know how much I end up reading today. Let's update on Beartown. I read up till chapter 40 last night, which means I read 175 pages yesterday, which is so much, even for me. And the reason for that is that when I read chapter 21 yesterday morning, and I was talking to you guys about it, I said that there was a shift in the tone. And really what happens before chapter 21 is build up to what's going to go on after. And this build up is really important. At first, when I started reading the whole book, I was like, okay, I'm enjoying the characters, I'm enjoying this build up, but I'm not super invested. I just thought they were well written and well depicted, but the build up is so important to understand the dynamics that play with what happens in chapter 21 and the rest of the story. And because of the tone shift, I was just so engrossed in it, and I read for maybe 5 hours yesterday, which is a lot more than I usually do. But thankfully I'd done all my work for my class that I had this morning, so I didn't have to prepare anything for it. So I just had all day to do whatever, and I decided to mostly dedicate it to reading. I did go outside and I wanted to, and I even brought my camera and my mic. I was so embarrassed. There were so many people around, and I'm still finding it difficult to pick this up when there's crowds. So yesterday was just insane. Every bench that I sat on alone, someone would come in and sit because everyone was outside, which is understandable because it's so nice, but that just made me really shy. I read 4 chapters this morning, and I think I'm gonna go to the bookstore or outside because I want to spend my time outside. I think I'm gonna finish it over there, so I'm gonna give you my opinions on the things that have happened since the shift in tone, if you will. First thing is my emotions are very much on the line right now. I really vary between being very, very angry at the characters and what they do or don't do. For some of them, what they say, and then someone does something good and it hits me emotionally. I feel really intense relief, but I think it's because it's juxtaposed with the bad. But I also think it's so frustrating what they say or do or don't do and everything like that, because it's so realistic. Unfortunately, it's just so realistic that I'm just angry with the characters. In a sense, I appreciate how realistic it is, because it's a difficult subject to tackle. It's a difficult subject to tackle well, and it can very easily be trivial when it's not realistic. So even though I'm angry and frustrated with the characters, relieved that it's tackled this way. The first part of the book, I was kind of on the fence with the hockey, because I don't love hockey, but I don't dislike it. I just don't care. I don't feel anything about it specifically. And I don't want to say that this is so much more than hockey, but I think it's like hockey is the thread, and then the knitting of the story isn't hockey. But hockey is still the main thing that drives these people's decisions and how the town acts together. It's a crazy dynamic, but it makes it very realistic, like I was saying. And especially for the teenagers in this hockey team, the boys, there's so much pressure put on their shoulders to bring hope back to this town that they're almost taught not to fear anything, and so they grow up with this sense that morality doesn't matter as long as they're good players. And I think that's a very interesting commentary as well about the intensity we put on young athletes when they're really just teenagers, because their whole lives revolve around the sport and there's so much pressure put on them. I think there's a lot of dynamics at play that Frederick Backman is criticizing, and he's doing it so well. At first I was like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this book, but I'm not gonna love it. And then after chapter 21, I'm just so invested. So I think I am going to finish this and then go and finish the book as well. And I'll come back tomorrow, start another book, and update how many pages I do end up reading today. Hello. Today is Saturday. I didn't talk to you guys yesterday. Sorry, but I'll explain why. But first, I finished Beartown on Thursday, which means I read 117 pages. Overall, I loved this book. I think at first, when I was reading it, I was really enjoying it, and I was enjoying the setup of it, but I was not like, I'm gonna love this book. And then it completely took me by surprise because I couldn't put it down because I needed to know what was going to happen, but also just because I was really actively loving it. So amazing book, so happy I read it. Finally, I went to the bookstore and literally bought book 2 because of this book. I kind of entered a reading slump. Not a reading slump, but when I finished it, first of all, I just knew that whatever book I would pick up next, I wouldn't do it justice fully because I kept comparing every single book I would pick up to Beartown, whether or not there were similarities. So on Thursday when I finished this book, I read one chapter of a French book, then I put that down because I was just not in the mood to read that at all. I think that French author is very reminiscent to Frederick Lachman in my brain, and so I was just like, I need something more different. So then I picked my Kindle up because none of the books on my shelves I wanted to read. And this is the problem with being a mood reader. I was between 2 books in my brain. First one was Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher because I heard some good stuff specifically from Heather, and I read the first 4 chapters I think, and then I put it down because I knew I was not going to enjoy it. And then I read the first chapter of Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and then I was quite enjoying it because I really do enjoy tennis, and I've been wanting to read this book because I enjoy tennis, but at the same time I also never wanted to read it because I read 3 of her books. One True Loves, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Daisy Jones and the Six. The 7 Husbands I didn't really enjoy. I think I'd rated it 3 stars when I read it back then, but really it would not have been a 3 stars. I think because I knew how many people loved it, I was like, I can't have a negative opinion of it. And then I liked Daisy Jones more, but I wasn't super into the story either. But then I watched the show, and I really changed my mind about going back and reading her books because I think I've grown as a reader now, so I think I can appreciate her books more now than I did back then. And the show for Daisy Jones is incredible. I think it was made to be a show. It's just such an elevated form of the story as a show rather than as a book. Anyway, my point is I started reading Carrie Soto is Back, and I was really enjoying it, and then halfway through chapter 1 I was like, wait, this is a very intense sports story. What else is an intense sports story? Beartown. So I was like, okay, can't read that, but I still enjoyed her writing and how it was brought up, so I decided to pick up Malibu Rising, which that I did end up getting a bit far in. I think I'm 20% in, so I'm only going to count those pages because I don't want to calculate all the others. But from Malibu Rising, I read 74 pages yesterday, and so far I'm really enjoying it. We basically are introduced to this cast of siblings that are the children of this famous singer, and the oldest daughter is throwing a party, and we know that the party is going to turn into something pretty tragic, but we kind of know how, but we don't know why and who's behind it. So that's kind of the story. I'm really enjoying it so far. I like that we flash back to the past when the parents meet, and the siblings dynamic I think is going to be impacted by their parents' dynamic, specifically the father, who I think is going to be an interesting character. I think I'm appreciating it a lot more than if I'd read it without having seen Daisy Jones, because now I really understand that Taylor Jenkins Reid really appreciates looking at flawed characters, but at the same time I think it's just because I've been enjoying following morally gray characters a lot more than I used to, especially when you read a lot of romance books, because the characters tend to be very positive, which is a great thing, I think, to follow characters that do good things, and there being a clear line between a hero and a villain, if you will. But I'm really appreciating that that's not really the case in the books that I've been reading more recently. So yes, those are all my thoughts on Beartown, and I'm going to continue reading Malibu Rising over the weekend. But I also have so much uni work to do, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have. Hey guys, I didn't think I was gonna update today because it's the first day of my period and I just did not want to wear makeup and my hair is dirty. I just didn't like the way I looked. And I said this before, I know it's trivial, but this is going on the internet. So I think it's fair that I want to look a certain way, but I wanted to talk. So let's talk about Malibu Rising. I read till page 166 on the Kindle, which means I read a total of 92 pages yesterday. This book reads really fast, even a lot faster than Beartown did, partly because there is a lot of dialogue and partly because it's very fast paced. The chapters tend to be pretty short. Basically, the way it's set up is the book is divided into two. There's the 12 hours leading up to the party from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then there's the 12 hours of the party from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. And those first hours leading up to the party are interspersed with past chapters where we meet the kids' parents and we understand parents' relationship, but also the kids' dynamics with each other, and we understand their upbringing, what brought them to where they are in the present, which is at the party and leading up to the party. I'm really actually enjoying those past chapters a lot. I think that I would particularly enjoy them as much as I did, but I found them to be very well written. However, I don't know how much I'm going to be enjoying the book once we get to the party, mostly because I feel like it's going to have a lot of famous people around and the dynamics are going to be completely different between all the children and between the characters in general. I still think it's going to be interesting, but I liked the slower build up and getting to know the characters, getting to understand how they thought and why they think the way they do. Also getting to know a little bit of the drama with some of the things they do. I don't know. I just really enjoyed being in the past chapters and how they related to the present, but I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy the party, which is really interesting because I think that that's the main event of the book, obviously. So I don't know. I'll let you know when I read today. Also, one more thing, I'm loving the crumbs that we get from the other books. Carrie Soto has been mentioned a few times. There's been someone, I think Cecilia St. James, if I remember the name correctly, from The Seven Husbands, and two people from Daisy Jones and the Six, Warren, which is the drummer, and Wyatt Stone, who's a guy, random guy, but I love the song they made for him in the show, Stumbled on Sublime. Listen to it all the time. So I feel like I know these people and I'm really enjoying that she brings everyone back. I don't know, it's fun to read that, and I think I might finish it tomorrow anyway because it says that I have 4 hours and 40 minutes left of reading, so that's definitely readable in 2 days, especially considering I'm on my period, so I'm not gonna do too much. I need some rest and I have work to do, so I think in between work breaks I'll be able to read. So I'll give you final opinions tomorrow, hopefully, but yeah, so far pretty good. I'm really happy that this up because I know it's not gonna be a favorite, but I'm still enjoying it more than I expected to, if you will. So yes, that is that. I'll update tomorrow. Hey guys, I finished Malibu Rising this morning, so I thought let's talk about it. Let me tell you how much I read. I think I read to like 75% last night, and I read a total of 108 pages. And I was at page 274, and then I ended up finishing it this morning, like I was saying, but I couldn't film because I had tennis and then lunch. I also went to do groceries. Anyway, pretty busy morning, so I just thought I would wait till I finished the book to give my final update and my final thoughts. Let's actually calculate how many pages I ended up reading during the whole week. 636 pages. That is a little bit over what I usually read. I do tend to read about 1 to 2 books a week, but not that much in terms of pages. But both of the books that I was reading, especially Malibu Rising, were really quick to read because I was invested. Malibu Rising was more that it was just a really quick read. I didn't expect it to be so quick. Beartown was that I was really invested and that I dedicated a lot of time to reading. I think I had a pretty solid week. My overall thoughts on Malibu Rising is that, like I was telling you guys yesterday, I didn't love part 2 quite as much because I feared that it was going to do what it did, and that is that we followed characters that aren't main characters or the main people that we're interested in following, and so I didn't really care what they had to say. I think we followed them to show how most of these really rich people aren't necessarily happy or do good things. They're like morally gray and that this is what they do, but I don't think it was necessary unnecessary for the story. I don't think their point of views added anything, in my opinion, to the story. So I was enjoying when we were still following the siblings, but whenever we switched to a POV that I didn't care about, I was a bit checked out. So overall, I think I liked the build-up a little bit more. I liked getting to know the characters, and I liked the end of the book. I thought it was a pretty solid book, but it wasn't a favorite. But I still am really happy that I read it, because now I do want to read her 2 newest releases, Terry Soto is Back and Atmosphere, and I'm still like talking about Daisy Jones and the Six, the show, because I'm still in love with that show. I can't watched it in January and a tiny bit in February, and it's been something that I keep thinking about. Listen to the music all the time. If you haven't watched that show, watch the show, and I'd even say watch the show and read the book after, because the show is just that good and it's made to be watched. Actually, I kind of feel the same way towards all of her books, where I do think that they would translate on screen better than they translate on writing, at least all the ones I read, which is now 4. But I would have written her off as an author for me if I hadn't watched Daisy Jones, the show, so I'm still happy that I read Malibu Rising. But I think Malibu Rising as a show would be really fun. I just love a show set in the summer. This is set in Malibu. We follow these children that love surfing. I think it would be a really visually pleasing show and lots of drama. I think the feeling of a show set in summer that you watch in summer is so fun, which is why I'm so excited about the Every Summer After show. I think that's going to be so good. But yeah, I think that's all I actually have to say for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm so excited to bring back reading vlogs. I feel like I'm more myself again, and I feel like sometimes when I watch some of my older videos that aren't that old that I've privated, I feel like I'm putting a persona, but it's not on purpose. It's just that when I'm filming, I can feel really shy, especially if there's people around me as I'm filming, and so I come across a little bit different than I am in real life. But I do feel like myself more when I do these kinds of videos, reading vlogs like this. They're fun to watch, they're fun to do, and they're fun to look back on personally. So I'm happy that I'm bringing them back, and I will see you next week, and I'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your day or night. Bye!